In this video, we're going to get introduced to Ajax. So what is Ajax? Ajax stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. And it's used to exchange data between a web page and a server. Websites like Facebook, Gmail, and other websites, they will use Ajax to change parts of the web page without having to reload the page every time. So this will make the user experience better and more interactive. Alright, so in our session we will create a few examples where we're going to use jQuery to build some Ajax code. So to start, we're going to be looking at the Facebook div, and all we're going to do now is to load some data from an external file and change the content of the Facebook div using that data without reloading the page. Okay, so first of all, let's create a text file somewhere. We're going to create inside a folder we're going to call Ajax, and then inside the folder we're going to have a text file. Let's call it somedata.txt. So inside this text file we're going to have some HTML code. Okay, so let's have a couple of paragraphs. This is some data, and let's give it an ID. Paragraph 1, and let's have a second paragraph with an ID paragraph 2 and some text there. This is some other data, and let's save that. Okay, now if you go to our file ajax.html, we're going to write some code inside our document ready function. So we're going to be accessing the Facebook div and loading the content of the text file. Okay, just change the extension, it's text. Okay, so first let's access the Facebook div using its ID Facebook, and then we're going to use an Ajax method. It's the load method. It's quite simple. All we need to do is give it a parameter where we put the location of the file that holds the data. So in our case it's Ajax/some text dots or some data dot text. Okay, so let's refresh the page and see what happens. So you can see that the content of Facebook has just changed, and we've got the data that we loaded from the text file. Okay, let's try something similar with the Apple div. So again, we're going to be accessing the Apple div using its ID and using the same method, same function, load. But this time we don't want to load the full or the entire data. We only want to load the first paragraph. So to do that, we're going to use the ID of the paragraph. So inside the quotes, we'll have both the location of our file followed by the ID of the elements we are interested in. So we need to use a number sign followed by the ID. In our case, it's paragraph 1. Okay, and if we refresh the page, we can see that we just loaded the first paragraph onto the Apple div. Okay, so the load function is quite an easy function, but very powerful Ajax tool to load data from external resources. So now we're going to move to another function that we can use to load external data. But before we do that, let's just create a button just before Facebook. Okay, and what we would like to do is, okay, let's just refresh the live preview. So what we would like to do is click on the button and load data onto the Microsoft div. But this time we're going to use another function for that. So first of all, we're going to access the button. So we can just use the tag name button because we only have one button there. Okay, and the event is click. And then we're going to define a function inside the parenthesis, open curly brackets and close curly brackets. All right. So this new function is going to be Ajax. Okay, so just be careful with the syntax. It's going to be $sign followed by dot and then the name of the function Ajax. All right. Okay. And then we open the parenthesis and close it. And we need a semicolon there. Then we're gonna open a curly bracket where we're gonna put the parameters and so on, and close it there. So first we need the URL of the file that stores the data. So in our case, the URL is the same as this. Okay. So first we need the URL keyword followed by colon and then the URL as a string. Okay. And then we need a comma. And following that, we are going to use another keyword. It's success followed by colon. So what we're doing here, so we're loading the data, okay, using the URL. And then under the success condition, we're going to have another function to execute once the data is loaded. So this function, we're going to define it, and it will take one parameter. We're going to call it data. We can call it anything we want. So what's happening here is that we are loading data from this file, okay, and that data that we loaded is going to be stored in this variable. Okay, so all the HTML code of this text file that we're going to be loading is going to be stored in this data file. And then we will this in this data in this variable. Sorry. So and then we're going to use this variable inside the code of this function. All right. To change the content of the Microsoft div. So let's access the Microsoft div using its ID. Okay. And we're going to use the HTML method to change the HTML of the Microsoft div. And inside the parameter of the HTML method, we're going to use the data variable. Okay. So again, all we're doing here is, so we load data using the URL. Okay. And under the success condition, we put data inside a variable that we called data. Okay. And we will execute this function that we defined here. So so using the variable that will store the content of the file that we loaded. All right. So let's try this. So let's click on the button, and now we can see that the Microsoft content has changed to data stored in the text file. All right. Okay. Now we're going to try another way. It's more or less similar. So we're just going to copy paste the same code we have used so far, and we're just going to comment this one. So this time we're going to use the same function, okay, but we will give it only one parameter, only the URL, and then we will use another method. So the way we're going to do that is, so you're going to keep this. Okay. So we're going to rewrite the function, the Ajax function. So again, we're going to use the Ajax function. So $.Ajax, and this time we're going to have only one parameter. So we need parentheses and then curly brackets, and then we will use only the URL parameter there. Okay, and then we're going to use another method. It's done. Okay, so this method, so inside this method we will have the same function data that we defined over there. Okay, so function, let's write it. Okay, function and data. All right, and then inside the function we're going to write our statements where we access the Microsoft div using its ID. Okay, and we're changing the HTML content of the Microsoft div using the data variable. Okay, we continue the name of the variable. We can call it some data if you want to. I'm just going to change it. Okay, so we're doing exactly the same thing. We need the dots there for the method. So we're doing exactly the same thing, but rather than using this way, we're just using the Ajax function with only the URL in the parameters of the function, and then we're using a method done. Okay, that will take as a parameter a function that we're defining here using the variable some data, where we store the contents of the loaded data from the text file. All right, and then we pass this parameter to the statements of the function to change the HTML content of the Microsoft div. So let's try and make sure this is working as well. So if we click on the button, we can see that this is working as well.